and knew, okay, this feels like the right time for us. So I had applied down here, and then I asked a couple coaching friends, and they're like, Keith, you really need to be serious about that job. It's like, all right, well, I threw in, but I don't know anything about it. And they're like, no, that place is a gold mine. Like, you need to heavily consider go after that job. And so at that point, I got really serious about it. And I didn't, I'd never been here. In fact, I think when I was at Valpo, we played Kennesaw State when they had just started the program.
Yeah.
I mean, they were maybe a year or two old, their volleyball program. And but that was the only time I didn't know a whole lot about it. I got down here, I was just blown away by campus and what we could be and just what was going on around here, and 10 years later, here we are.
And so that's what sold you, it was your visit here?
And Vaughn did a really good job.
Vaughn was a great guy.
And Coach Whitlock, who was the softball coach here for almost 30 years, was leading that hiring committee, and I connected with him really well. And so I think it felt really right for us. It just felt right.
How many years before you showed up was there a volleyball program?
They started, I believe, in 05.
So
essentially when we
7 years
when we turned D1, even through the probationary time, they had started. Yeah, 05 or 06. I could be wrong about that exact date, but somewhere in there. So it had only been going for about 7 years since when I got here. Yeah.
And I know that when I went to Kennesaw Junior College,
Sure.
we had 5 buildings.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know if you know, Carrick's dad was my econ professor, and that was really cool. Carrick and I went here together, but even in the 10 years that you've been here, how much has this place grown?
Sure.
It's
I mean,
amazing.
I got
isn't
the
it?
job, and there was 24,000 students, and now there's 43.
Now there's 43. Yeah.
I mean, just that alone, right? Tremendously. Now you see, we were talking about this earlier, waiting to get on. It's hard to go around campus and not see a lot of people wearing KSU. So in the parking lots, there's stickers on the cars, whereas sometimes there's some students that tend to wear non-KSU things, ATI. But
look at it. He's even got calling you ATI now. So look at that. A permanent nickname.
Dude is cool.
Boiler up over there. But no, it's come a long way. I mean, anybody who's been around here and seen it, it has happened kind of in steps, but when you really step back and think about where we were 10, 15, 20 years ago to where it is today, and going, up to Conference USA, and just the some of the recognition that some of our teams have gotten and what we've done, in different sports, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Conference USA. Let's go ahead and get our second commercial out of the way, and we'll continue our talk with Kirk.
Conference USA.
Yeah, I was too. Great minds think alike.
And so do ours.
Exactly.
Do you need a delivery now, as in go now, please? Bearcat Express has expedited shipping on hand-carried items, car, van, or pickup. Whether it's from Memphis to Augusta, Dothan to Charlotte, or even just Athens to Atlanta and all points in between, we've got the drivers to get your stuff where it needs to be. Whether your passport's still on the dresser, your 7-iron isn't in your bag, or you have a dog that hates to fly, Bearcat Express with their live tracking capabilities is the team to turn to. We are the go-to courier in the Southeast. Check us out at BearcatExpress.com.
And as always, we want to thank Blair Cook from Bearcat Express and David McDonough with Modern Image for being our sponsors on this, and not only the Owls Who Live Sports show, but also on the Three Guys Who Love Sports at 5 o'clock. So join us every week out here at Miller's Ale House for 5 o'clock, Three Guys Who Love Sports at 7 o'clock, the Owls Who Live Sports, or the Owl Show, Hootie Hoo. So let's get back into Conference USA, because you guys already play kind of a higher college-type schedule.
Sure.
Sure. But how is that going to affect now that you're going to Conference USA?
It's obviously it's been a big talking point around the community and just within the department. And what's fascinating is there's different programs that I think are going to be affected a little differently, right? You brought up the scheduling that we've played. One of my goals when we got here was, okay, we're going to build this thing, and I want to be the best team in Georgia. Like, we don't just want to try to win the ASUN. We want to be the best team in Georgia. We want to get in the top 100, get in the top 50, do these things like that. And we've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. 3 seasons we have been the highest-ranked team in Georgia. We've beaten Georgia Tech twice. We've beaten Georgia. We've beaten Bama a couple times, Clemson a couple times. So we've done some things like that from the national names and from some of that stuff, right? What's strange right now is that I think everybody's really excited about Conference USA. From volleyball standpoint, we had 5 teams in the top 100 in the ASUN this year, right? Which Conference USA at the moment does not. Now, I will say 3 of those top 5 are going to Conference USA, us, Liberty, and Jack State.
Yeah.
You know, and so but every sport is affected so much differently by some of this, you know, sports maybe where there's been a turnover in staff and they're trying to build, this might be, their eyes might get really wide, you know. Whereas other sports, I think we're going to be just fine competing. Now, Western Kentucky's been winning that league, and they've been top 25 every single year pretty much for the last, 10.
Do you think it's going to help you from a recruiting standpoint, saying you're in the Conference USA as opposed to being the ASUN?
I think it will. I think it kind of depends on where the brand continues to go, right? And a lot of that is what this is, right? Can the additional media exposure help with the branding of KSU? Can men's basketball, right, get in the NCAA tournament or make a run, right, on TV, right, and no pressure, Amir. But and can football obviously get some buy games, get some stuff like that, right? I think Conference USA helps. I think some of those things happen. But it also
gives you the opportunity.
Correct. Where the ASUN, I think there are certainly some limitations, and what Conference USA also does is it gets you with a group of schools that I think are all going to be pretty committed to trying to elevate their athletic program. Where I think in the ASUN you got, certainly some are without question trying to do that, and then some others are just kind of trying to
along for the ride,
grasp for air, along for the ride type of thing, right? And so. But yeah, it's exciting.
So you don't really care where the exposure comes from. If football is playing on a Tuesday night and they're the only game in town, that's another big bonus for KSU, right? Because there's going to be people out there like me that just love football and they're going to watch no matter who's on.
The high tide raises all ships, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think as we continue to all grow, any chance we can get to get more exposure, more awareness, more branding, more people recognizing what's going on around here, it's going to help all of us. Now there is more commitment from being in Conference USA, and so that's going to be a challenge, right? We're going to have to continue to, get more resources and get more people on board, and there's going to be things that to keep up with the Joneses we're going to have to do, which is also exciting because that's going to help push us forward.
And, that's one of the goals of this show is to help with the NIL function at KSU.
Sure.
As we say every week, we say it at least once, if you give $500 to Georgia, you give $500 to Tech or Clemson or Bama or somebody, doesn't mean anything.
Sure.
You give $500 to Kennesaw, you become part of a family.
Sure.
Like Will and Garrett and Carrick and all these guys that bleed black and gold. And as we go through the years, you're going to see more black and gold as opposed to the gold and white of Georgia Tech. And God, please, more than the black and red of Georgia, because we just despise that.
We know which side you're on.
Yes, we do. So, we're all here to help, and we want to help in any way we can to bring more exposure and more dollars to KSU sports. So.
No question. Yeah, and that's fantastic, and this is awesome you guys are doing that. It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time. It's a challenge. College athletics is in a really challenging time right now.
Absolutely.
But everybody is trying to position themselves and trying to navigate these waters.
Are you out looking in the transfer portal?
I was going to say, has the portal
reached
affected women's sports, women's volleyball?
There's over 1,000 kids in volleyball in the transfer portal right now.
Are there really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Any 6'9" girls off the bench at Wisconsin looking for a place?
Yeah, that's right.
Here we go.
Come on in.
Yeah.
People don't realize since 2016, volleyball has been the most played female sport in the country. And so, the sport has just exploded. There's more people watching it than ever. There's more kids playing it than ever. And so what it takes to win and to elevate in this sport now, it's no joke.
Well, this may be position driven. I don't know, but on a typical year, how many new players do you want to bring in?
It is position driven, and it is kind of determined on how many scholarship players you lose. But typically, you're talking 2 to 4. 2 to 4. A big class would be like 5.
So you had carry
which we brought in this past year. We had a 5-person class, going into fall of 22.
Yeah.
This year is a little smaller class, and then the following year will probably be another bigger one, probably 4 or 5.
So how many players do you have on your roster? 15?
15, 16. Some people will carry closer to 20. That gets pretty dicey. You're only playing 6 players. You're only scholarshiping 12, and so
15 through 19 are probably in the transfer portal.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. We've been fortunate enough, I think, for various reasons. One, KSU is a really cool place to go to school, and a really cool place.
We're
to be.
learning that.
Okay,
yeah.
but the other thing is we have not overloaded our rosters from a number standpoint. So because of, and there's also other reasons I think about just our culture and how we treat our players and all that stuff. We've never lost a kid to the transfer portal, not one.
That's awesome.
Okay, we lost one year. We had a grad student who finished and then went off. Okay, but we never lost an undergrad. Nobody in the ever, and nor have we ever taken one at this point.
From the transfer portal.
From the portal, and that is very much in the minority. You kind of heard. I'm sure you guys have heard some of the things that Dabo has said over at Clemson about some of his thoughts on it.
Sure.
And I've from the get-go, our office has kind of been saying the same thing. Hey, we can go after some of these kids, but then we're gonna have to look at our own players and say, yeah, thanks, see you later.
I know I went to your living room 2 years ago, and your parents brought you here, but now I'm looking at that kid from Louisville.
And so it's a really tricky thing, right?
Sure.
Because you want to keep improving your roster, but at the same time, once you go down that slope, it's kind of a hard one to get back up from. And so we've been pretty hesitant. Now we looked this year and we talked to a couple kids, and it didn't work out. But it's not saying we wouldn't do it. And I get why people do it. I understand.
But on a base by base.
But people that are living in that world, you are putting yourself in a pretty rough position. Year after year, you're going to be in that heavily.
So tell me this: have you been in a conversation with the AD and the president and all the coaches in a room where you start talking about going to Conference USA, and you mentioned the fact that basketball is going to need a new arena, which means you get the convocation center. Everybody can just move on out. I'll take this building.
Our arena's great, and they're, Milton's doing a great job with it, and President Schweig's doing a great job, and they understand that this is going to be challenging, but they're having all sorts of meetings and talking about things, and they're going to have their ducks in a row for this.
As people say all the time, everybody's got problems. These are good problems to have.
Yeah, exactly.
They're fun
right?
problems to have.
When people are trying to go after your department where there's opportunity for you to grow, you take the opportunity.
Yeah, and from a fan perspective and from a business community perspective, now is the time to get on board
for sure.
KSU as we get into the Conference USA, and we would love for you to be a part of that. If you want to text us at 4709-GO-OWLS, that's 4709-GO-OWLS. We would love to hear from you and give us some money to the NIL program at KSU. We would love that. I don't know if you listened to our interview with Caitlin or not, but one of the things we asked her, who's the most famous person in your cell phone?
Oh boy, I don't know if I have anybody famous.
You got Carrick Martin in there, don't you?
Carrick Martin is in there. He is pretty famous.
He's probably the one then.
The previously mentioned Garrett Brackett is in my cell phone.
Oh no, I said famous, not infamous.
Yeah. There's some.
He
infamy.
said that. You call me next time.
Boy, I don't know. I have the assistant coach for the women's national volleyball team in my phone.
There you go.
That's pretty impressive.
Aaron Virtue. There you go.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I don't know if I have. I don't. Yeah.
So when we first started this, we met Carrick, and I think we met him in June. I met him in June, and we had him on the show, and then we started talking about doing this show, and so started doing homework in mid-July on what we're going to talk about. And one of the very first things I came across was Griffin's game. And it's just such an awesome story for, just how much it means. And, for all the different things that jump off the table, this is something awesome that KSU does and that the volleyball team does that people don't know about.
Sure, yeah. My wife and I, unfortunately, our son, who's 10 now, he was 2.5, Griffin, at the time got diagnosed with leukemia. And so, talking with Coach Whitlock, the former softball coach who, became a mentor of mine who was in administration, we said, once we started getting him treated and it was starting to show that, okay, he's probably going to be okay here, and, we're in our battle, but we're out of the woods at that point, right? Or not fully out of the woods, but we were starting to get there. We thought, what can we do to help give back to so many people? Because it was unreal how many people.
I can only imagine.
An unbelievable amount of people, and that word is overused, but truly unbelievable, that reached out, sent us stuff, cards, letters, money, everything, doing fundraisers for us, just all sorts of stuff, right? So we were overwhelmed, and we said, we have to do something. We have to. How do we pass this on just for our spirit and our soul? We have to pass this on to the world, right? And so we came up with that. They've done Lexi's Day in softball for years over there, and we came up with, let's do Griffin's game. We'll find a family in the community, and we'll raise money for that family. And at the time, I thought, okay, we might be able to raise a little money. Well, we've raised every year. This is the second time I believe we got over $10,000 in one night for a family in
That's
one
awesome.
night. And so, now we got where people can get online and donate. Even if they don't come to the game, they can buy T-shirts. Even if they don't come, we got some different ways. But it's been really neat to see what we've been able to do to help these families, because we felt it. I mean, you're pretty helpless.
But this does go back to KSU being a true family environment,
question.
that everybody's one for all for one.
Yeah, I mean,
Larry, the engineer, has recovered from leukemia too.
Oh, there you go.
So
There you
there's
go.
just another
Yeah.
story.
Well,
Before we let you go, we want to hear about what your aspirations and goals are for this year and what your expectations are.
we're gonna have a lot back. We're gonna have a lot of players back. And so I think once we got it, after a couple of years here, really going into our third year, and we've been able to build this and have, recruit the right kind of kids and start to have a level. I think the goals haven't really changed, right? Not a whole lot. They kind of vary year to year, but we always want to be in the picture for a conference championship. We always want to be in the conversation, right? We always want to compete within the state, anybody we can. Okay, that's always been a thing. And then can we get in the at-large picture for the NCAA tournament, right? And we have been in that a number of times, really 3 times we've kind of been in that world. And so I would expect nothing less from this team. I mean, we got a lot of talent back. We got most of our starting lineup back. We lost a couple, but we got a lot back, and I think we could be pretty good. I think we could, a lot of it will depend on how some of the young kids develop this spring. We had a big class, like I said, 5 freshmen coming in, and we're going to need a couple of those women to really
Step it up,
elevate their game, learn, grow this spring. And if they do that, we could be pretty good.
You guys are not blocked from being a conference championship because you're not in a transition year. Like I know football can't win the ASUN,
Right,
but
correct,
you guys
yes.
are not blocked
Yeah,
from that,
correct.
right?
Yeah. And I don't know how that all went down, but the ASUN was generous, gracious enough. As far as I know, the other sports are going to be allowed to
It's only football.
compete for titles for the ASUN. Yeah. So
It's probably because the scholarship level doesn't change drastically.
right.
Which I believe
right.
it does.
Yeah.
for football.
Yeah. I think most other sports, I don't know if it'll change at all. Whereas to your point, football, it changes
So
drastically.
in the end of the year tournament, that's very similar to March Madness. So if you win your conference tournament, you get
Yep.
an automatic bid. Outside
Sure.
that,
so
you're waiting.
32 leagues, I think 32 leagues. There's your 32 automatic qualifiers, and then they would take 32 at-large bids, and then you got your 64 team bracket, first, second round, Sweet 16, Elite 8. Yep, same thing.
This table and this place will be rooting for that.
There you
Absolutely.
go. I hope so, guys.
And we want to thank Keith for being with us today. What a great time.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoyed having you here. Big hooty hoo for Keith Schunsel, the coach of the women's volleyball team at KSU. Guys, thank you for being with us this week. It's been a great show, and we look forward to seeing you back next week here at Miller's Ale House on a Wednesday night. Y'all have a great week.